Okay, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm gonna try to, I guess, like the purpose of the talk and my experience is mostly in the IT sector. If you're not in the IT sector, but you're still interested in the employment opportunities, I suppose hearing the model that we use and some of the standards that we have is a good kind of general rule of thumb when looking for work yourself. And also maybe some of the strategies and stuff that I would use as a job coach might be relevant across multiple sectors. So I'll try and make it broad, but still very much IT focused. So as Tom said, I'm a job coach with Auticon. So basically that's just like one part of our support model. And we're an international IT service provider that started in Germany and has spread across the world. So the red dots are where we currently have offices, and the green ones are cities that we're planning to grow to in the near future. It's a social enterprise that exclusively employs autistic adults as permanent IT consultants. And our Australian office launched in 2019. And now we have 15 consultants and our numbers are growing every month. So we just ran a prep workshop, which is sort of like in lieu of a traditional job application process this week. And that was pretty successful kind of start to that growing process that we're seeing. So yeah, Grace, Boris?
Yeah, so you're happy to take questions as you're going?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Okay, so just why the focus on IT only?
So it is just an IT consulting company, and so at the moment that is the focus of Auticon. I know that there are similar kind of models in other industries, and it's definitely worth looking into. But IT seems to be an area where a lot of autistic people really excel and have really adaptable and amazing skills. So it kind of feels like a good area as far as consulting, and it kind of made sense for the company, I guess. So basically, to expand on that, we believe that autism, the autistic community is an untapped pool of talent, and we know that a lot of autistic people are underemployed, and that the barriers that some people face to traditional employment can prevent them from accessing or even applying for jobs. So the idea is to sort of make a workplace that is going to address that and I guess acknowledge the different barriers, but also be really skills focused. So we have a neurodiverse recruitment approach, which is what I was describing as the prep workshop, which I'll explain a bit more, where we find it's very skills focused. So we go straight for skills, and we do lots of different kind of activities in order to sort of obtain some data on individual skills beyond communication, or maybe the ability to impress somebody in an interview, or some of those measurements that are sort of looked at when you think about a traditional interview process. So we found that this has led to many successful careers, financial independence, and an increased quality of life for our consultants. And we provide in return high quality work, creative solutions, and unbiased evaluations for our clients. It's our mission ultimately to contribute to the changing perceptions in wider society and help create more neurodiverse and inclusive workforces and workplaces. So these are some of the partnerships that we've had at Auticon Australia, and I've worked on many of those, and it's really interesting to see how much different workplaces really want to learn, and a lot of managers and buddies that the consultants get paired with have lots of questions about how to be communicate clearer and understand, I guess, beyond the traditional way that they've sort of been managing, have developed lots of really generalizable skills, which is really advantageous to them, because in my experience, it's the way that all workplaces should be. So the things that I would suggest are things that every workplace should have. But I suppose I come in with the guise of it being specifically autistic friendly or neurodiverse friendly, but in reality, it's actually just better for everybody. So this is just a study that was done across all of the different global Auticon offices and the experiences of the consultants. And they found that 80% felt that they'd improved their skills and abilities, improved confidence, that the job coaching was really supportive, and then improved personal well-being. So we have quite a holistic approach to support. And a lot of what I do is looking at somebody's social circles and what supports they have as far as physical health, mental health. I'll look at how secure they are in their housing, or and then look at what external supports that I could put in place to help that person achieve work and maintain work. And then I guess more personalized skill-based stuff, as well as upskilling and training in the areas that that person might be interested in. So we're looking at all different areas. So it's not surprising that people feel that they've experiencing an increase in well-being, because we're trying to look at all of those things. So I don't actually have a consultant with me. I think that was initially the plan, but this week has been a little bit wild. So I've got a video of one of our consultants, James, who's been with us for about a year. And he's just sort of recorded his own take on what it's been like working with auticon. So hopefully that video will work. Can you hear that one?
Not at the moment, no. We can see it, but we can't hear it.
Is that better?
At the moment, no. You might want to, when you're sharing the content, you might want to make sure it's sharing both audio and video.
Thank you. I'm a Teams person, so I don't. Oh, there we go. I found it. Thank you.
Quite welcome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is that working?
Yes.
Yep, all good now.
It's quiet though.
I've been working here for around 6 months now, and prior to starting at Auticon, I graduated from Curtin University in 2020 with a Bachelor of Science in Computing and a specialization in cybersecurity. In terms of work, it's going great. There's very little stress and anxiety, and I think that can be attributed to Auticon's unique job coach system, which essentially pairs consultants with a job coach who can act as an outlet to discuss any issues and provide support. I really think this sort of robust system really makes Auticon stand out amongst similar consulting firms. To anyone considering a role with Auticon, I would highly suggest you go for it. I think you'll find the recruitment process a lot less daunting than traditional companies, and Auticon's flexibility in regards to work situations, and also the great support systems in place via the job coach system make it a very stress-free and pleasant place to work.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is a photo from, we recently had a morning tea. I think it was for Autism Awareness Month. And everyone brought something that they had like either been working on artistically, or something they'd been watching, or something they were interested in. And we sort of had a morning tea together, and it was really nice.
I believe Bryce Butler there competed in our hackathon last year.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's so lovely. And so good at IT and what he does. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. So this is just some of the approaches that we take to providing support, and I suppose highlighting why it would be different from other workplaces or applying for other roles. I've lost my mouse. There it is. So basically we follow this sort of process when it comes to recruitment. So we're really focused on finding out what somebody's skills and ability are. And then we use this in order to gather data and job match successfully with clients based on that person's skill set. Because of the barriers that are faced in the traditional application and interview process. So we offer lots of support. We also look beyond a resume, or beyond, I guess, previous measures of somebody's ability or somebody's success, because we know that often they're not reflective of the true, I guess, capacity or ability of that person. And so we kind of start with a cognitive assessment, and then it's all online, and then there's another assessment, I think a tech assessment initially. And we have a tech lead who oversees all of that side of things. As I have zero technical ability or skill set, I really rely on the technical team members because I don't know what's happening a lot of the time. So I focus on the more personal, general consulting skill side of things. And then we would kind of go through to an informal chat, which is just a conversation with the job coach, or it could be the CEO or somebody on the team. And then we would invite the consultant to the prep workshop, which, as I just explained, 3 days of sort of individual tasks, and then also team building kind of exercises and lots of different types of thinking, and then also tech kind of activities. And then ultimately we create a case study, and each group will do a presentation at the end, and we sort of observe how the group's working together, the different levels of communication style, how they support each other, and also just can actually observe how engaged the person is with the task. And so it's just a much better way of actually finding good candidates for employment, and it's been a pretty robust system up until this point. And then if that participant's successful through that process, then we'll offer them permanent employment. And oftentimes that looks like starting what we would call on the bench or on the beach, sometimes it's called, where you're in between client sites and you're just waiting for the perfect kind of fit with the right role. And during that time, we provide lots of training and upskilling, and we do more intensive job coaching. So looking at some aspects of wellbeing that might need some addressing or some work, and we can kind of provide lots of support there so that when work begins, that person's feeling really confident and ready for the role. And then these are just some further support mechanisms that we have in place. So past the recruitment process, we provide job coaching. So that's where I would conduct probably, I would say for the first 6 months, usually it's about an hour a week of talking about how the job is going, or the upskilling, or referring to services, or talking about personal issues, or whatever sort of comes up for that person. The idea being that I guess for some people it's quite challenging to know what to share with an employer and what to share with a client. And so I kind of act as the ears for the person, and I can sort of provide feedback and say, I wouldn't tell the client that you're highly skilled and underutilized, and like some of the things that maybe they want to say. And I can kind of use my creative thinking to think of a way that we can get that person into some more challenging work without it becoming sort of a social difficult situation or creating tension for them in the workplace. The same if anything comes up as...
Can I just ask, sorry, what's the issue though with saying that you're underutilized, if in fact they are underutilized?
There's no issue, but it can create sort of a tension or a hostility in a work environment if that person or that leader misunderstands or misinterprets the communication. So I think it's more about just making sure that there's a clear pathway, and that obviously I want all the consultants to advocate for themselves. And so I think it's about building up those skills so that that person does it in a way that's not going to impact their reputation or their the way that they're viewed in the workplace. Yeah, that would be the approach that I would take. But most of the time it is just the consultants advocating for themselves and developing that professional communication, because there's always challenges in every workplace, and you kind of have situations that you don't expect. And so it's good to have, I think, a support there to sort of tackle those more challenging scenarios as they arise. And I also act as a client liaison.
Thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you.
Thanks. So that means that I check in with the team that the person's working with every week and make sure that they're doing their work, any feedback, and kind of just close that loop between the consultant and the team. So as I mentioned, we have a mentor, Aiden, who's on the spectrum, and he runs our tech support, and he meets regularly with our consultants and does tech chats. So basically we have streams of different areas within the IT sector, and he would address any concerns or issues that might arise in those specific areas and help provide solutions. And then with the client, we do pretty extensive autism training. So we do like an understanding autism workshop with the client, and basically we go through and just talk about what autism is, what it might look like in the workplace, and a very kind of, I find it impossibly challenging, but quite a broad spectrum, because we're trying to include so many different perspectives and really hone in that every single person on the spectrum is completely different, and that no two people are ever going to be the same. But here's some things that work well in every workplace with every person, in my belief or in our kind of experience. And then more specifically, we'll do a consultant briefing, which is targeted to the person. So if someone has sensory sensitivities, or I know somebody that we work with really can't stand the sound of eating or drinking on a call. So we kind of just say, hey, just letting you know that that's a sensitivity. So maybe just don't have that sandwich on that call. And just having that initial conversation kind of sets the person up for success, because everybody wants the placement to be really successful and that person to have a really happy work-life balance. And so we just have those initial conversations, and all of that's done with the consultant present, or the consultants writing their own consultant briefing. So it's very much whatever that person wants to share or feels comfortable or feels is relevant to that role. And then finally, I would go in and do a workplace assessment. So really, it hasn't been that relevant up until now. So I think some workplaces are asking for the consultants to come in, but most of the time it's pretty flexible. And I feel I have a lot of ability to say it's actually going to work best for this person to work remotely. And also we can be somewhat flexible with hours, because I know that for a lot of our consultants, early mornings are really challenging. So if they're commuting, we might look at shifting the time frame so that they're commuting at 10 and not at peak hour, and just little things like that we can try and just make things as, I guess, suitable and comfortable for the consultants as possible. And so this is just an example of a slide that I would share with the clients of basically the areas that I would look at if I was assessing a workplace and the suitability of it. So that would be looking at the sensory environment. A lot of the time offices are just so gross because they've got lights everywhere, bins at every desk, like lots of gross smells, no noise control, air conditioning vents leaking, like just a million and one things. And so I would go in and find like the nicest desk and be like, this is the desk that we need. This is the only desk that we need. And we get it. So there you go. That's one really good advantage. The main thing I would do at the moment, I would say, is doing the communication adjustments. So a lot of the time I find with bigger workplaces, they don't have very good communication across teams. And so we try and do a lot of work with creating really clear, direct communication. That's no need to read between the lines, no need to read the subtlety behind it, because it's not very helpful for anyone to have to be guessing all the time. And it also just helps get clear feedback and clear understanding of whether you're doing a great job and whether you're fulfilling the role. And we would do a lot of sort of coaching with the team about that. And then with mental health, so we obviously have a really big understanding that mental health and mental health issues are prevalent and need support, and it can be a really big barrier to somebody wanting to go out and look for work and find work. I would say the most common thing that I talk about is anxiety and stress, and how that's a barrier to maintaining and engaging with work. And so I would do a lot of training around that and look at ways that that person's feeling supported and balancing that. So a lot of the time I'll be like, go for a walk. Like every day I'll be like, it's time for another walk, or just little things for whoever it is to help them sort of regulate throughout the day and just get used to prioritizing their own health and their mental health as far as being really productive. Yeah, so that was a lot of information for everybody. So we're currently hiring, and we're hiring in Melbourne, Sydney, and Auckland, but to be honest, we have consultants all over the place. So in Australia, so if anyone is interested or has IT skills or just wants to see what that recruitment process might feel like, feel free to send through your information. You can send it through there or send it to Tom, and I'm sure we can sort of sort something out. And our next prep workshop will be in July. So if you are interested, we will be having one soon, and we'd love some new talent to come through. It's really exciting. We're kind of growing at the moment, and I'd love to see some new faces. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Awesome, well done.
Thanks.
Thank you, Grace.
Ah, thank you.
So that was very impressive, Grace. Thank you.
Oh, great.
I was, when you were speaking, and you're talking about that part with like the messy desks and stuff, I was just sitting there, just having like a almost like a hot, pardon me, a hot flash. I used to work at ANZ. On my first day, I was in the kitchen, and just I was like instantly just cleaning everything. It was just a boys club.
Nightmare.
and this woman who saw me doing this, she came up to me and said, "You must be new here." And she said, "How did you know?" I was like, "You're trying to clean the kitchen. It's a losing fight." Like, how? There was like 8 cups stacked, like one on top of the other.
So gross.
Like the door to the washing machine was open, and there was a smell emanating from it that was just foul beyond compare. And it was just like, how do people work in these conditions?
Yeah, how could you possibly do a focus or do a good job with all that going on? Yeah.
I wish I knew. So I'm sitting there. I'm actually now looking at the
neurotypical. You can.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at the Auticon website now, being like, I wonder what roles they have in Australia.
Yeah. Well, we have also places all over the world, so please go for it. Where are you based?
I'm in Sydney. I'm
okay,
up in the northern side. I'm in Mount Colah, still the far north side of Sydney.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And Tom is my polar opposite. He's in the full eastern suburbs. My eastern suburbs.
Oh.
Not too far from the airport, which is probably why you can hear the planes. Anyway, we have a question in the chat. Grace,
oh, yeah.
Do you require a report or self-diagnosis enough?
We do require a report. However, if you have a diagnosis from the past, and it's from a psychologist, and it's like if it's ASD1 or Asperger's or whatever, we will accept that. But if there's no evidence of any diagnosis, then we need a report. And that process is quite lengthy. So we have a 6-month probation period, and we just basically will keep an eye and make sure the person's in the process of getting the diagnosis, and then we go from there. So we do hire people who don't have a diagnosis but believe they have a diagnosis, with the intention that they're going to then proceed to get the diagnosis within that 6 months.
So the ultimate goal is that eventually one must have a diagnosis to have employment with Auticon.
Because we only hire autistic consultants, yes.
Right. I mean, that's it. What if you identify as autistic, but don't believe in diagnoses? I mean, that's a whole other kettle of fish there.
It's a whole other kettle of fish, and I'm happy to go through the process, and we can talk about it further. But yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah.
Well, we've got all night, so.
Yep. Is there some kind of support for starting your own work or your own business, or only working with another employer? Yeah, so we only would have that model for the consultants who would then place with other employers. But as far as starting your own business, go for it. And I think you can find job coaches elsewhere that would support your own business, but I am not supposed to advertise other services. However,
you will also find a lot of pain.
Go for it.
Yep.
A lot of what? Sorry.
Pain.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's fine, because you will find light at the end of the tunnel, but be prepared to not make any money for a very long time at the beginning.
A GP. Okay. Yeah, a GP report, I think it has to come from a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And so we have a whole database of basically places that do the different diagnostic assessments, but you do have to have the assessment from a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Yeah, what would a GP even do? Like, the best they could do is a K10 report. That's it.
I don't know how it works, because it is confusing. Yeah, so if your GP has referred you, then that's the way to go, and just make sure the psychologist can do diagnosis, because for some reason not all psychologists can. So it's worth just double checking with them. The only thing I would say is it's quite expensive to get the diagnosis. I'm quite surprised at what a barrier that is to going through that process. But yeah, it is. Yeah, everybody's having their own individual journey, but that's sort of our process.
Which begs the question: do auticon support diagnoses in terms of the funding thereof?
Yeah. What do you mean? As in, like, would we pay for the diagnostic process?
Or
we don't.
Not at all.
No.
So they'd be taking a risk on whether or not they're actually autistic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
As far as what you're saying, Alan, I think it's worth looking if you have any services in Albury. We do have consultants who live remotely. So we have a consultant who's on Bribie Island, for example. He's not commuting to any offices anytime soon, so we can make that side of things work. But as far as doing the diagnosis, I don't know if they do it remotely unless you've seen them in the last little bit. I know that during COVID, they did a lot of what do you call it? Distance
Telehealth?
Telehealth.
Telehealth, that's it. Yeah, they did telehealth. And I think now they want to do a check-in. So sometimes they'll say you have to come in person and then we'll do things remotely. So just double check with them. How does the salary compare to other? I'm not sure. I think I've never had any of the consultants complain about their salary or ask for an increase. So I think that everybody's pretty happy. I think they're just paid at a standard rate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any difference to any other
To be honest, they'd just be really happy to work. They don't care if it's below market rate, you know? So.
But I don't think it is. I think that they pay pretty fairly. Yeah, so we have something called a development plan that we put in place. So basically that's it's an Excel spreadsheet, but more than that, it's a sort of document tracking that person's progress and their goals and what they're achieving and things like that. And so we use that as a reference point at the 6-month probational mark, where we will review, just with any company, you review your performance and you have a chat with your supervisor or your CEO, and then you kind of work your way up and your salary changes as you kind of gain experience and success.
2 questions from Ilya.
I know, Ilya, I can see you and then I'm reading what you're saying. The probation period is 6 months.
And do you do an audit of salaries?
Yeah, we do. No, that's okay. You can interrupt, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, so I would say it's not exploitive. I think it's pretty supportive and pretty yeah.
Also, you know, you're obviously setting people up for success, though. You don't want them to fail their probation, but
no, it's definitely not. And also, we want the to work out on the client side, because then they're more likely to ask for more consultants, and so it's just like a very mutually beneficial relationship.
And another question begged: what's the success rate? How many people pass probation percentage-wise?
I honestly haven't seen anyone not pass. So at that early stage, like during the prep workshop, we can pretty much see who's ready for work and who needs to kind of maybe work on certain aspects and kind of come back more prepared or things like that. And so we wouldn't put somebody through that process into a work site unless we felt comfortable. We have some junior analysts that have come through who are still very much developing. And so they have just been upskilling and getting lots of support to ready them. So we do often kind of take a bit of a risk and kind of pick people who are just really keen and really need to upskill.
So let's say 99%.
Pretty high. I don't think we do work with a union. I'd be super interested to know what union we'd be part of, really, because
that would be the USU. So I'm part of the United Services Union, which covers a whole litany of things, including IT, graphic designers, etc.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because, you know, when you're talking about sort of making sure that, like, you know, with the sensory overload, making sure that people who are autistic get the right treatment. One of the things I've encountered is that it's very easy to bully someone who's autistic and put them in the position where they're not sure kind of what to do, and you know, where they kind of worry that if they go to HR, then their issues will be used against them somehow, and so, you know, and they're made to feel like they're in a precarious position, and so they'll just cop more abuse, and so that, you know, just given the amount of in the last couple of months, mainly from, I'm from the US, mainly from the US, we've seen lots of reports coming out of people who work in IT and in sort of computer related roles. Video games come to mind as well, where women and men have been told, like, you've got to work for an extra 4 hours today, and they're doing 80-hour weeks, or and they're not being compensated for it. And in some instances with women, they're being there's passive, low level sexual harassment of a very sort of like, if you mention to someone else, they wouldn't notice it, but it's sort of that, microaggression kind of sexism almost. And so therefore, in Australia being a much more sensible country towards its labor laws, I was curious in that perspective of, whether you could speak to that and how that sort of operates at Auticon.
So I think, unfortunately, I hear lots of stories, especially from people who've been working as IT consultants for a long time, that they feel that for whatever reason that certain organizations have taken advantage of them, or they've been felt that they weren't treated fairly or treated with respect, or that the politics within a workplace has caused lots of anxiety and a lot of the time trauma for people who then kind of tried to find other employment. And then, I think it is really really big problem, and especially for women, it's not amazing still. So I definitely think there's work to be done. I'd say that because Auticon, especially Auticon Australia, is very small. It is like 100% my job to make sure that none of that is going on, and to have regular check-ins to make sure that that person's feeling comfortable and that anything like that won't happen. It's my personal, I think it's my reason for why I do this work, because I am so passionate about making sure that we just have as little terrible experiences as possible. And I think, working really closely with the consultants and with the team can help to sort of mitigate that, because I'm kind of all over that whole environment and watching very closely. And I think that that does help. And if anything comes up, I'm ready to sort of call it out, and, whatever needs to happen happens. And so I think that's the role of the job coaches, and the role of Auticon is to act as the protector of the consultant in many ways.
Can they just work from home, Grace? Like
mostly, yeah. So we do have some consultants who don't like working from home and are sick of being at home on the computer, and they've been coming into our office. So we have offices in Melbourne and Sydney. I like this question, Russell, about crippling social anxiety and also being highly motivated. I think, honestly, we see everything. And we have some amazing consultants who are highly motivated and don't have crippling social anxiety. And we have some that are not that motivated with crippling social anxiety, and they're still doing a great job. So I think it's about, I guess, what your goals are and what you want to achieve. And I guess if you feel like you want to overcome some of those challenges, or you want to have experiences outside of what you're actually kind of used to.
It's actually my son. Because I got two sons, both with autism, diagnosed. I got all the paperwork and everything. And one is highly motivated, but with intellectual disability, so he's not got any interest in computers whatsoever. But as with my other son, he is very, very bright, very good at computers or IT stuff, but terrible putting himself forward to do stuff. But once he's in the groove, he will show up every single day to do it, But if he's decided that it's not for him, if something is just wrong by a little bit, he will not go forever, ever again. So for example, he would just complete drop out. So like we went to put him into a TAFE course this year, and he thought his idea of a TAFE course is like a teacher coming up and teaching you every day.
But it's so different, isn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those courses where it's a self-paced thing. You work off an Excel or a Word document. And he came back and goes, I'm not going back ever again. And I go, well, maybe it'll be different tomorrow. And he goes, no, not doing it. So I don't know how there'll be support for that kind of stuff. Like I know you guys are a small business, and when you've only got limited resources for certain sort of abilities, but would that be something that will be within the realms of your abilities there, or your capacity?
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole thing is to provide opportunities for people like that who may struggle with those sorts of aspects of things and want I guess, an opportunity to try something in a different way and be able to show their skills first, and then that can kind of help for them to gain confidence. And we try to create an environment that caters to people with that experience, like your son. I think it's I think it's, if he's interested, tell him definitely to apply. And the worst thing that will happen is that he'll leave with a bit of an experience and a clear feedback about where to go from there. And I think as far as upskilling and studying for IT, it's disappointing because so much of it is just online, self-paced, and for a lot of people that's really, really challenging. But I know that I've been looking for some of the consultants recently, and I found some good courses at like mini courses that I think I saw one at UTS, and Sydney Uni's doing them, like short courses on Python and things like that, just for upskilling. So it might be worth him looking at that.
Are they online or in person?
In person. So they are starting.
We're in Melbourne, so I think we were trying to do something like Holmes Glen or something here.
Yeah. You could do that, or you could have a look at some of the unis, because they're just starting to roll out those short courses. And I think in person. Pardon?
RMIT.
And there's the other issue. There's the other issue, Tom. You won't travel far from home, so we're pretty much an hour out of the city, and his social maturity is low. But when you go to, hang on, the other question would be is, you probably would have some guys sitting in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, we do. We have an office as well. Yeah.
Where is that located?
I think that they're only just opening it, and it's it'll be in the CBD.
CBD, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna ask all these questions.
Okay.
When the person comes in, normally for him, I can't speak for all autistic people, but for him, he'll form a strong bond with a few friends, or people he makes his friend. So he won't have a huge range of friends, but he'll have, when he comes into a place and he forms a bond with a person there, the chances of him staying and doing his best is really high, because he want to come back and be with his mates. I don't know if you do stuff like that, or
so we always pair a consultant with a mentor within the client side. So we pick somebody who's got the capacity to make time to help the person, and then we do a training with them on making sure that they're available to answer little questions and show where lunch things are, and talk about the unwritten rules of the workplace.
But even like going to lunch, eating lunch together, not eating lunch by themselves, because they haven't got the capacity to ask someone to spend lunch with, but they don't know, but they want to. So what we would do in that circumstance is either we'd make sure that their buddy was present on the client site with them until they kind of got into the flow of things, or either me or Meredith, the other job coach, would be present with that person at the work site until they felt comfortable. So I'll often work from client sites with consultants if they feel that that's going to help them. So all the things you're thinking of are exactly the things that I think of as far as making something successful. And I think it's all about what your son wants to do and what's interesting him. And I'm sure he'll have lots of opportunities. I think this is the better time than ever to start doing things and trying new things. And now that COVID's kind of slowing down, it seems things are opening up again. So I wish him all the best. And thanks, Grace.
Feel free to talk to him about it, and love to meet him and send his things through.
If he allows you to, he'll pretty much put his head in a hoodie and try not to talk to you at all. But
what do you think my day is like sometimes?
Yeah, I know. I can get
Not
what your day's like.
Everybody loves to see me every day, but they do.
Maybe if you got a dog or something, maybe that's the the rewarding part of the day.
Anyway, next question.
Okay. Yes.
Crooked Trail.
Yes. What if the work from home business involved working with other organizations regularly? Where is this kind of employment support was needed? Non-verbal, complex, not sure if that makes sense. Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, Crooked Trail, that you are interested in doing sort of your own consulting. In which case, I'm not sure, but it's worth looking up. So having a look at different, looking at what supports that you feel would be needed, and then and then looking for a job coach or somebody to support with that process. I think, yeah, as far as partially nonverbal, that's like, there's definitely ways that you can absolutely make that work. And as far as an auticon perspective, we definitely look at that as a not really a barrier to accessing employment, because there's so many different ways to do ID work that it's not really essential. So yeah, I'm not sure about the self-employed side of things. I'm not really able to be very helpful there.
Two more questions from Ilya.
Thank you, Ilya. It involves applying for roles, mainly involves emailing someone. Yes, I think it's, yeah, so the website is really, it's not amazing. I forgot we recorded.
I was
about to...
biting my tongue on that one.
I think we just had a meeting about how they need to redo the website, but I did see that on one of the links from the Twitter to the website, you can do an application, but you can't access the application from the website. So that was in my head for our next meeting where we talk about improvements. But yeah, emailing through and just asking to apply, or just introducing yourself, and then we'll send through all the documents that you need to kind of look through or whatever.
Do you know which auticon Twitter? Because I'm just on Twitter right now, and oh boy, you've got a lot of auticon accounts. Like there's an auticon Australia, there's an auticon. It's just like, I mean, I'm guessing auticon Australia. Yeah,
I think like auticon Australia. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I saw a recruitment link in that Twitter when I was mucking around, or it might have been LinkedIn. I don't know, but I think it's the Twitter. Who decides to work from home? Can a consultant or auticon? Pets allowed in the office? Great questions. So as far as working from home, I think it would depend on the client that you're paired with. If the role is 100% you need to be working from the office, then we'd have to have a conversation about it, because if the role is amazing or whatever, we can be as flexible as possible. But to be honest, I haven't had a client who's requested full in the office at all. Pets allowed in the office? Great question. We just got a new office for Sydney that is pet friendly. But I don't know, we haven't had the conversation yet about whether that's true, because I have a very active cat that goes on walks with me, and he's very, very well trained, and I would love to bring him with me to work. But I'm just as keen to find out as you, Art, about that question. I'm glad that was helpful. I feel like I didn't say anything particularly helpful, but I tried my best. RPLs.
Recognition of prior learning.
Pardon?
Recognition of prior learning.
Thank you. Recognition of prior learning.
For example, like a nationally recognized skill or qualification.
Yeah. So
institution.
We do support consultants to do upskilling, and a lot of the time that involves certification, and we would back the consultant to do that financially. So we have a budget for upskilling and training, and all of our consultants leave with more certifications than they came. Previously, we used to encourage everyone to do the ISTQB, which is a testing related certificate. We've since evaluated that that's not necessary unless somebody's specifically passionate about the testing realm. And so we've really kind of broadened our training and upskilling to lots of different things. But yeah, definitely we offer a lot of upskilling. The pay is standard. Do I know what the actual salary is? I actually don't. And I've written this down as like, these are the most complicated best questions I've ever been asked. So thank you, Senior Lions, for keeping me on my toes tonight. I'm going to ask what the salary is, because I think I should know. And also about the unions. That's a really good point that I haven't considered. So I want to look into that myself.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I'm also trying to find, I'm on all of the Twitters right now.
Oh, good.
The LinkedIn account. So LinkedIn account for Auticon, it only has 3 job posts. The Auticon AU LinkedIn account doesn't have anything on it, which makes me
strange.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around whoever is doing your social media stuff. I need to have a talk with them.
Thank you. Writing this down. This is great real-time experience for someone going through the process.
You're not offering your services now, are you, Olivia?
Well, I mean, Grace, I am looking to get out of my job, which is making me miserable. So
yeah, I'm really happy to hear it. Ilya, I want to see an email from you because I think that would be really fun. And yeah, I'm sorry that this process is so convoluted. Good feedback.
Oh no, it's
you
okay.
Can
It's
just
just
lead with that in the email.
oh no, it's more.
You said that your job's making you miserable, and her immediate reaction was really happy to hear that.
I'm like, that's because you're gonna leave.
Yes, we are
already happy.
Oh look, we're trying to. My boss, when you're talking about like the whole like not reading between the lines and stuff, and my boss, it's like there's I've shown it to Tom. There's this brilliant Canadian TikToker called Lo Whaley. Her account is Laura, and she does videos about corporate life. And watch them. It's just kind of like, is she talking to my boss in these videos?
Yeah, I believe it.
It's like, as referred to, it's like, how do I say this in corporate English? Like, how do I say this is not my job in corporate English? Like, please note that this does fall outside of my current responsibilities and job description. And it's, oh God, it's great.
It is so weird when you do the corporate language thing, because you would never speak like that with anybody. It is very funny. I'm not surprised the TikTok for it.
Yeah, it's a small spice of hell.
I think when it comes to corporate language, I make a lot of effort to not do it, and then try to make everybody talk as naturally as they can in an organization.
That's nice. That's nice to hear.
The reason for that is then you can build up trust much more easier in that way, and you are more authentic in your normal language.
Yeah, I think also it's a weird hierarchical thing sometimes with the language, where you have to speak up like to people in a different way because they're more senior or something like that. And so by having just regular speak, it kind of softens those.
Exactly right. And then you can play I can't remember what it's called, bingo or something with the corporate lingo. Have you played that yet? You haven't played that yet? There is
I think that's a Don Watson invention, that one, because there's the brilliant Australian writer I think he's from Sydney, Don Watson, who wrote, he invented the term weasel word. Like, that's actually an Australian term. He invented that.
Wow.
And he gave a speech once, I think it was in Perth, he was in Victoria. Russell, he was in your state, where he was invited by the education, this was like 10 years ago, the then Minister for Education in Victoria, to give a speech on clear language.
John Brumby.
Was it Brumby? Okay, well, yeah, would have been
John Brumby, I think.
And so he said, and he was sitting there.
Maybe not.
And he had the pamphlet with him, and the pamphlet, and he explained, like, so I was asked to come and give this lecture and this talk on clear language, and I'm sitting reading, that we look forward to aligning our core shared values in order to proceed in a way that is in alignment with our synchronized principles to achieve the verifiable outcomes that we strive for on an annual basis in order to attain. It's like,
you're right. It's too hard. No one can understand that. I mean, if you cannot explain something in like basic terms, you shouldn't be explaining it at all. And you should be able to explain a concept to say, look, in a corporate thing, we buy something from this guy and then we do something with it and then we sell it. Well, and then from the money that we have left over, then we make something out, we get money left over, and then that's what we call profit. That's how you would do it to say, to people. But there's some corporate terms that I haven't got a clue what they all mean still, and they've been talking about it around me for like 20 years, and I still don't get them.
There you go. So I found the link. I put it in the chat there. So that link, that's Don Watson, who
Did homework?
Yeah, well, a friend of mine had him as a professor, and apparently Don Watson 20, 30 years ago was very coarse, very short-tempered, and sort of ill-mannered, apparently, as a lecturer and professor. But he's apparently mellowed with age, like a fine wine, I suppose.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I sat there watching that the first time, and with a friend of mine, Jeffrey, and just pissing myself laughing, because it's what you see in this video is an accurate representation of everything I deal with at work on an 8-hour, 9-hour basis, like every day. I can't get anyone to speak normally. It's impossible.
I always leave these like conversations with like notes from whatever I've been talking about, and they're mostly just links to TikToks and like people to look up. Like, there's hardly anything else. It's just always, every conversation I have at work pretty much ends like that. Plans
Tom,
to
I love
grow
you.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm going back to your question from ages ago about the percentage of Auticon employees that are autistic. So out of all of our employees, we have 16 right now consultants, and we have one project manager who's autistic, and then there's 5 other people
Who
in the
support?
organization. Yeah.
So a majority.
So it's the majority, and also we're looking to hire more job coaches, and also we're looking for at the moment a project manager, and so we're open to them being autistic or not. Yes, I'm happy for you to apply, Ilya.
How? Who do I?
I know, I'm really upset that it's been so challenging.
Oh, I don't mind. I honestly, this is not challenging. This is just modern day technology and design. That's not challenging.
Yeah.
Challenging is like, I pointed to a friend, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has job applications. A government application was online yesterday. It's no longer there. It was meant to close in an hour and 50 minutes, and it went down 2 hours
already
ago.
Closed.
And it's like, okay, so they pulled the job. Did they decide to get rid of it? Was it a mistake in their system? And I'm automatically curious because I want to, it's the let me problem solve.
Yes. I've just put my email in the chat.
Cool.
So if it's the easiest way is to send me things, I'm really happy to receive them. And also you can email me if you'd like me to just call you and speak to you about it a little bit more, your own personal circumstances. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Can I add something to that? Sorry.
Yes.
So I work in the construction industry, and so having an eye for detail is very, very, very valuable. And it's not a popular field. And what excelled me was my interest in computers since I was a little kid, and applying that. So I used to work for large national organizations, and I struggled with the politics. I started my own company, and now I literally work on my own. I get paid. I charge what I want, and I target smaller organizations, and I don't have to deal with any bullshit. Basically, my work is what is valuable, not the interactions between other human beings. So what I'm trying to say is I escaped that because I would never survive in that corporate environment, because it's similar to superficial, pretentious. Yeah, right. So and it's great, So I thought I'd share that. So because maybe that can be a way for the consultants to be able to maybe sell their services and their abilities to and work in their own time. They could sit at a beach if they want and sit, like all I need is my laptop to work, sort of thing. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
It's good
cool.
that you're working for yourself and that you found a way that things work for you. That's great.
No, I wasn't trying to like show off or anything, but
no, I didn't think that.
I was trying to so hopefully that can what's stopping other people from doing it, so surely there's demand out there. It's just finding it and yeah.
And I think what I said at the start about how, I guess, when you're looking for work in a different industry, looking to see if you can have a mentor asking for, like, checking the environment and then giving feedback on whether you need any adjustments made, like things like that. You can definitely advocate for yourself if you are in the construction industry or whatever. You can use that as sort of like a base for things that I guess you can ask for or you can kind of work with. I don't know what this marshmallow talk is. I feel like I'm too new to this group to understand the toxic marshmallow conversation.
They do this stuff all the time. Don't worry.
It's from. Have you ever seen Ghostbusters, Grace?
I haven't. This is another like classic film. You've just exposed me again that I don't know.
Oh, it's okay. Oh no, that just means you're lucky because you haven't seen something awesome yet. That just means there's more awesome waiting for you. No one should ever be ashamed of not having seen or heard something. Rather, it's kind of like it's more like it's an opportunity to kind of like such a treat awaits. It's just like, because I would love to be in your shoes to see something with fresh eyes. Well, to see it again with fresh eyes.
The thing is, Ilya would be very excited to hear back from you about you watching Ghostbusters now.
Yeah,
telling him all about it.
More so than any employment conversation.
No, that's his thing. That's his thing. If he shares any pop culture with you, you'll have to report back. and
I've
then
got a
you'll
whole
just
list here.
you'll make
Don
his day.
Watson. I've corporate lingo. I've got it all written down.
Yeah.
Well,
Low wage
you know,
TikTok
And
account.
if someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. That's
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You
Yes,
always say
someone
yes.
asks you if you're a god, Ray, you say yes.
Yeah.
Just on the last thing you're talking about is that in the workplace, and because I survived the corporate stuff, and by sitting there, maybe having a breakdown or two in the middle, but
Yeah.
after coming out the other side, it actually there was a realization that everybody else didn't really know what they were talking about either,
No.
and they were actually scared. And then when I developed the skills to learn how to drill down and what people are really talking about, I became really good at it in the end, like after a lot of practice, but I became really good at it. And I go, oh my God, you don't actually know what you're talking about. You don't know what this means. You just completely, it's full of crap, you know? So,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden the tables turn because you become the expert on something, because you didn't have to become the expert because you didn't know. And you go to things like, talking about stuff in front of people, like of a room of 100 people presenting stuff, which happened all the time eventually for me, is that I learned how to deal with the crowd as well. To say, they go, ask me a question. I go, well, I don't know. What do you think? And then I say, can anybody else answer that question? You know, and so you throw it back out to the crowd. And it was an amazing little trick, you know, but if nothing makes sense, you just continue asking questions until it does, until you know 100%, and it pisses people off. But geez, I tell you what, you get to know things pretty good. And in the end, that you actually get to know where everybody else lies in the room too.
My boss hates questions. He hates them with a passion.
Oh, you'll hate me.
Your boss sounds really concerning.
Yeah, my boss sent me, I showed a friend the other day, and it was hilarious. My boss sent me a work instruction where he sent me a photograph of a car, and he said, can you blur the background out? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. That's easily done in Photoshop. That's a 5-second job. Then he said, can you flip the car sideways so that you can see more of like the side of the car? The car is sort of angled like a sort of a 15-degree incline, you know, with the trunk here and the front of the car on the right hand side. And I had to explain to him, this is not a 3-dimensional object. I can't move the car like in another direction. It's not a polygon. And you know, and it's just like, I can't believe I have to explain to someone that like you can't just take an image and modify it to have it do whatever they want.
I
It was
believe you.
bizarre.
Yeah. I feel like Russell, you really sound like a job coach. Everything you're saying is either something I've thought this week or something I would say to someone this week. So there you go. You've got real job coach hubris there, ready to go.
Experience.
Well,
I've been around the block a bit, so that's all.
I believe it.
I've taken a lot of crap.
Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions or things that they wanted me to clarify?
No, that's been pretty thorough.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me the most difficult questions of my history. Working at auticon. I really,
Oh yeah, obviously.
challenged me.
How long
It's
have you been
great.
with auticon for?
It's been a year.
Just a year, okay.
Yeah. Prior to that, I was working with adults doing social skills programs and things like that.
Nice.
And then prior to that, I was in schools doing teaching and support, learning support.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is, I really like this job. It's been great.
Yeah, what a career pivot.
Yeah, big pivot, but it's been really nice. It's nice working with other consultants. I have it's a really great team.
It's a unique opportunity, an untapped area, really.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Thanks, Crooked Trail, and thanks, Art, for your questions. They're really great. Well, I hope to hear from some of you, and yeah.